Hello! I'm all set up for a coulometer comparison video. So all the stuff's on my desk because I haven't got a lot of space. But I thought I'd put this video in because today I went to Lidl and I found this cordless engraver, 4 volts. And they've marked the price down quite substantially. So let's take a little look inside the box at cordless engraver. And here it is. It's 4 volt lithium cell. In fact, you can see that if you look through the you might just be able to see a bit of blue there. That's the lithium cell. And then through here you can see the commutator of the motor and the brushes. Yeah, it's an old-fashioned, old-school motor. And then there's a little tungsten steel tip, which basically looks like a nail. It's just sharpened. And you press this button and it vibrates like crazy. Now there are actually 6 speeds and they use this sort of dim bright notation. So that's 6 with 3 bright LEDs, 5, 4, 3, 2 and level 1. This is the battery level indicator. So we've got 3 LEDs telling us that the battery is quite well charged. Oh, you want to know what the price was marked down to? Yes, I mean, I reckon this thing was probably priced initially at somewhere between, I don't know, £12.99 to £14.99, £13 to £15, something like that. But before I get into what price it was marked down to, let's look at what else is in the box. So we've got USB Type A to Type C cable, but it's an interesting one because it's what's this called? Bell wire, figure of 8 zip wire. Not seen a USB Type A to Type C using that wire. Quite interesting. And then the other thing you get in here, apart from the manual, which actually only has 3 languages in it, it's really thick manual. It waffles on about all sorts of stuff. I mean, you don't really need to know all that. But the other thing you get are these templates. Although I suspect it might be quite difficult to use these because this thing vibrates like crazy, and you'd have to hold this very still. Maybe you could blue tack it and that would absorb some of the energy coming from that vibrating tip. So yeah, you got these stencils with a few letters and numbers and things like that. That's what's in the box. But I mean, although it's fairly obvious how this works. In fact, if I put this down on the minimum speed, I don't know whether you can hear this. I'll hold the tip. So you can hear initially there's a pulse width modulation whine. So I think it ramps up the speed when you press this button. And you can stall it at the minimum speed. So it just whines. Yeah, interesting. No, I wanted to take this apart because although, you know, speed control, pulse width modulation, battery level indicator, 6 speeds, the bit I don't know how it works is the thing that actually causes the vibration. Now, I assume it's just a plate with dimples in it and something pushing against it. Incidentally, that comes off to enable you to replace the tungsten steel tip. But they don't give you a spare, so you might, at the price I paid for this, want to buy a couple of these things so that you've got spare parts for it. But let's have a look at taking this apart. Oh, you want to know the price that this was marked down to before I go any further? Well, it was. Actually, let's take a look inside this first, or at least let's have a look at how to get it apart. Right, the screws in here appear to be T8 Torx, so let's start taking some of these screws out, and hopefully the thing will come apart without too many tiny pieces flying out of it and distributing themselves all over the room. Okay, screws out. I think this thing is about to come apart. Incidentally, if this doesn't go back together, it's okay because I bought 4 of these in total. I mean, you would at that price, wouldn't you? Oh, I haven't told you the price yet. Well, hang on. Let's just take this apart and have a look inside first. Yep, it's coming apart. Ooh, that's quite nice. I was thinking there'd be all wires dangling from one side to the other. Okay, so, oh crikey, that's quite a complex board there with the lithium cell attached to it. So I presume we've got a microcontroller to do the pulse width modulation on the sort of speed up thing. Also, of course, it has to have some memory to store the setting for speed. Yeah. And there is the state of charge indicator there. Now this, it does actually say on the box, so let me go and get the box. Oh, and I might as well tell you the price I paid for this while I've got the box on the table. Yeah, so battery is 4 volt lithium ion 1.5 amp hour. So it's a 1500 milliamp hour cell. So it's not one of these super high capacity ones. But I'm interested in this. How does this vibration plate actually work? Okay, I think I've worked out how I'm going to get this out. If I lift the motor shaft up, then the motors come out a little bit, and I can now get this hammer action piece off. Ah, interesting. Okay, so on the motor shaft, there's this humongous bearing, looks like a bearing, and then there's this rotating hub which appears to have a profile of raised areas and lowered areas. If I look at it from this angle, yeah, you can see that it's raised here and lowered here, so anything pushing against it is going to move up and down. I'll just press the power button and you can see that spinning, and these raised and lowered sections like that. Interesting. So what's sitting on that? This is really well engineered. It's far more complex than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be a couple of bits of bent metal, one pushing on the other. So in here, which is a fairly substantial sort of collar, you've got a steel piece with, again, raised and lowered sections. Let's go into macro mode. So that looks like that. It sort of rises up and then falls away fairly quickly, rises up again and falls away fairly quickly. And in the center of this, there's this, and it's black. It feels almost like ceramic, but I think it's probably hardened metal. Let's just see if it's magnetic. No, it's not. The black piece is not magnetic. I'm wondering whether this is, because there's a lot of black powder coming off on my fingers. I'm wondering whether this is some sort of carbon thing. But would you use carbon or even graphite? Let's go back into macro mode. Yeah, graphite, because graphite is used as a lubricator, isn't it? You can get these graphite lubricants for locks, which I have to say I found absolutely useless because they just clog the lock up. I found it's far better to just use oil, WD-40 or something like that, or 3-in-1. But yeah, that looks like that is where the base of this tungsten steel hammer rotates against, and I assume it's because that has fantastic what's the word, like Teflon. It's very low friction, very non-stick. And then this piece with the I think it's graphite actually, bearing and the little raised and lowered sections sits in here, and you've got 4 metal, let's put the graphite piece in last, you've got 4 slides to ensure that that is able to slide up and down without snagging. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to this than I thought there was going to be. I'm quite impressed with this little very low friction, but I mean, wouldn't that shatter itself to pieces? Quite surprised at that little, what looks like a graphite plug in there. So there we are, a surprisingly well engineered vibration mechanism. with possibly a graphite tip in there to provide the ultimate in sort of low friction interface between the tungsten steel engraving tip and the hammer action piece inside this case, which has a sliding four-winged metal plunger, I suppose it is, bearing there. A DC motor, it's an old brushed motor, but I mean, you don't need a brushless for something this crude. And a 1500 milliamp hour lithium cell. Surprising amount of electronics as well, but then, you know, you've got all this stuff for the 6 speeds, and also, of course, you have a state of charge indicator. Okay, so how much did they mark this device down to in Lidl? So here it is. Here's the reveal. £2. Yeah, £2 for this. I bought 4 of them. One for my mate, one to take apart on this video because I thought if it doesn't go back together again, it won't matter too much. And 2 because I just wanted some spare parts, like a spare engraving tip. But yeah, £2. That's cheap, isn't it? Go down to Lidl and get one now. Cheerio.